Welcome to the paint party. My name is Laura and I will be your guide for today's painting, which is an old witch's hat covered in creepy cobwebs. If you are painting along, check out the description below for all the supplies you will need. Pull up an easel and let's get painting. For the background, use a 3/4 inch flat brush and mix 2 scoops of titanium white to 1 scoop of bright red with half a scoop of ultramarine blue for a light reddish purple color. Add a drop of water to loosen up the paint if it feels thick. Wipe the excess off your brush and fill in the entire canvas. Work from left to right and all the way down the canvas. If you need help getting the paint to slide more easily across the canvas, you may need to take your brush, give it a quick dip in the water and a little dab on your paper towel. Keeping that brush wet but not dripping wet really does help that paint to slide across the canvas. With the first coat finished, let the paint dry before sketching in the hat and books. Using a sharpened pencil and a ruler, sketch 3 rectangular shapes in varying sizes on the bottom third of the canvas for the books. Leave a little space on either side and plenty of room on the top for the hat. Draw a pointy, curvy hat with a wide brim to the stack of books and allow the brim to hang over the top book. With the sketch finished, use a 3/4 inch flat brush to mix 2 parts bright red to 1 part ultramarine blue. Use this dark reddish purple color to add short streaks down both the left and right side of the canvas. Add a drop of water to loosen up the paint and wipe off the excess. Starting from one edge of the canvas, quickly flick your brush in towards the opposite side. Lift away from the canvas as you go in order to create a tapered effect. As you work your way down the canvas, allow your brush strokes to have different lengths, but be sure not to overlap the hat or books. With one side finished, repeat this process on the other side. If it feels awkward moving your brush in the opposite direction, flip your canvas upside down to fill it in. Clean your brush, switch to a 1/2 inch bright brush, mix together 2 parts bright red, 1 part ultramarine blue, and a drop of white. Add a drop of water to loosen up the paint and wipe off the excess. Use the edge of the bristles to trace along the outline of the hat and any smaller areas. Use the full width of the 1/2 inch bright brush to fill in the rest of the hat. Don't forget to follow the contours as you paint, and if the paint looks a little see-through, you may wait until the first coat dries before adding the second coat. Alternatively, you may add a bit more white to the mix, but be careful not to add too much so the hat doesn't get lost against the background. While the hat is still a bit wet, use the 1/2-inch bright brush to mix 2 scoops bright red, 2 scoops ultramarine blue, and 1 scoop burnt sienna. Add a drop of water if the paint feels thick. Wipe off the excess. And use the edge of the brush to streak in a few shadows down the sides of the hat and any part that curve in on itself. Keep the shadows big and bold, or give your brush a quick clean and brush over the shadows again to thin them out a little bit and make them more subtle. Use your dirty brush to pick up some white paint and streak in a few highlights along the top of the hat, down the front, or any part opposite a shadow. Keep your highlights big and bold, or give your brush a quick clean and go back over them with damp bristles in order to thin them out a little bit and make them more subtle. Clean your brush and mix 3 scoops ultramarine blue, 1 scoop titanium white, and 1/2 scoop of burnt sienna. Add a drop of water to loosen up the paint and wipe off the excess. Use the 1/2-inch bright brush and this light blue-gray color to fill in the top book. While working along the edges and under the hat, you may want to use the edge of the brush. If your book needs a second coat of paint, let the paint on the canvas dry before adding the second coat. Clean your brush and mix 2 parts burnt sienna to 1 part bright red with a drop of titanium white. And use the 1/2-inch bright brush to fill in the bottom book. Use the edge of the bristles to trace along the edges and the full width of the bristles to fill in the rest. If the paint looks a little see-through, let that first coat dry before adding a second coat, or you may add more white to the mix. If you are following the reference and making the middle book white, take a moment to thoroughly clean your brush and get a fresh cup of paint water before moving on. Using a clean 1/2-inch bright brush and titanium white, fill in the middle book. If needed, let the first coat dry before adding a second coat. With the last book filled in, it's time for another dry break. Let the books dry completely before adding any more detail. If you are inclined to post your work in progress to social media, I am on Instagram at Tiny Artwork. Please feel free to tag me so I can see all your beautiful paintings. Beginning with the middle book, use a ruler and a super fine-tipped black marker to draw horizontal lines to indicate pages in a book. Add as many as will fit in your painting, and don't worry about them being too precise. In fact, you can break them up here and there as you fill them in. To give these books a more finished look, use a 1/8-inch round brush and mix equal parts burnt sienna and bright red. Add a drop of water to the paint. Twist and pull your brush across the palette in order to take off the excess and bring it to a point. Hold your brush like a pencil, steady your hand on the canvas, and use the tip of the brush to trace along the top and bottom of the middle book. If the paint doesn't slide easily across the canvas, add a bit more water to the paint. If you like, These lines may be extended past the pages of the book just a bit on each side. For the top and bottom book, continue to use the same brush and paint to add a vertical stripe on either end of each book. Make them as thick or as thin as you like. At this point, all we have left are the book titles, creepy cobwebs, and spooky spiders. Clean your brush and use a pencil to write the names on the books and a pencil and a ruler to map out the cobwebs. Place them wherever you like, but remember to leave some space for a few spiders and be careful not to overlap the book titles. If you want a hanging spider, don't forget to draw an extra line dropping down from one of the cobwebs. Using either the tip of the 1/8 inch round brush or the edge of the 1/2 inch bright brush, pick up some white paint with a bit of water to trace along each line of each web. Make sure you wipe off that excess, hold your brush close to the bristles like a pencil, and steady your hand on the canvas as you go. Press very lightly for a thinner brush stroke and press down more firmly for a bolder brush stroke. Use the 1/8 inch round brush and white paint to trace along the titles of the books. Remember to add a drop of water to loosen up the paint and to pull and twist your brush across the palette to wipe off any excess paint and bring that brush to a point. Hold your brush like a pencil, steady your hand on the canvas, and trace the titles. Before painting the spiders, sketch them first with the pencil. For the hanging spider, draw an almond shape for the body. Draw a circle for the head. Add 4 legs on each side. The 2 in the front will be pointed down and the 2 in the back will be pointed up. For the spider on the hat, draw a circle for the body and 4 bent legs on each side. Feel free to let some of those legs overlap. Clean your 1/8 inch round brush and add a drop of water to the black paint. Wipe off the excess by pulling and twisting across the palette. Hold that brush steady and use the tip of the brush to trace along the outlines of the spiders and fill them in. And that is the last detail based on our reference photo. Feel free to add any other personal details you like, but the final step is sign your name. Take that skinny brush, whatever color you like, sign or initial one of the bottom corners, or you may use a pen or Sharpie on the side or back. Either way, take credit for your work, and if you are on Instagram, please tag me @tinyartwork so I can see your masterpiece. I hope you had a lot of fun. Thank you for joining me. I hope you'll join me again. Until then, happy painting!